Harry and Meghan's security has been making international headlines the past few weeks. And there are still a lot more questions than answers, which is why we've invited our next guest to join us via Skype from London. From 2007 to 2013, Simon Morgan worked as a Royal Protection Officer and is currently the Director of Operations and Training for the British security firm Trojan Consultancy. Simon, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Sharon. Thanks so much for having me on today.
OK, let's dive right in. Less than 2 weeks ago, Canada announced they'll no longer be providing security for Harry and Meghan once they officially step back from their senior royal duties on March 31st. So, Simon, do we know who will be protecting them on April 1st?
No, is most probably the honest answer. Now that Canada has very publicly said that they're not going to provide the security for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex whilst they're in Canada, moving forward, nobody really knows who is going to be providing that at the moment. Whether that falls to the Metropolitan Police Service to support that in Canada is a very big question that certainly would have to be looked at strategically and legally as well, or whether it's something that falls to the private sector to fill that void. It is uncharted waters that we are going into. It's certainly, there's no precedent for this.
So just to clarify for our American audience, you mentioned the Metropolitan Police Service. That's informally known as Scotland Yard, and it's the agency historically responsible for protecting the royal family, right?
Yes.
Now, you also mentioned the possibility of Harry and Meghan needing to hire a private security firm. If they do go in that direction, what's the biggest difference between private protection and government protection?
Certainly the current structure by the police service, you have the whole of law enforcement involved in that, both UK and internationally. You also have the security services as well, who will give their input on the current threat situation, both in terms of generic risk and specific, whether that's relation to a particular country or indeed a particular event. The biggest question going forward with the private sector is how do they link into that? How do they have the same or similar access to that information when potentially they're no longer police officers? So that is a question that is most probably being addressed at a very senior and strategic level at the moment, as to kind of whether the information is going to be readily available.
When you're talking about security for a family that's as high profile as the Sussexes, just how tall an order is it? I would imagine it could get pretty complicated, especially considering they'll be living an ocean away from the UK.
With regards to the package that they have going forward, then it is very important that there is an understanding of how that protection package is going to look like, incommensurate with the risk, but also in the lifestyles that they're going to be leading. Are they going to be leading a very sedentary, not so much isolated, but not much movement type of lifestyle? So therefore, the protection package around that would be quite reduced. If, however, they're going to be a global couple, constantly moving, constantly going in and out of different addresses, then you're looking at a vastly different package, because you have all the logistics to make those visits, those journeys, those events safe and successful. So that's where the cost implication would then come in, because obviously you are then moving and you have all the costs of transport, accommodation, meetings, extra staff, all that will go into that mix.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the potential cost. We read that Harry and Meghan's security could run as much as $20 million. Some are even reporting £20 million. Does that sound accurate to you? And where's all that money go?
Well, I think £20 million or dollars buys you a lot of security. There will always be a base level with regards to security. You're going to have protection officers. You're going to have a residential security package. The actual additional to that, which will see a cost increase, is how much movement is required to kind of make the Duke and Duchess safe whenever they travel. So yes, the cost implications are going to be quite significant if they are going to be a global couple, because you're always going to be in a scenario of protection officers traveling in advance, protection officers traveling to arrange meetings, extra vehicles required, extra residences, extra event staff if necessary. But certainly protection at that level delivered at that level is not cheap.
Well, Simon, you've definitely made us appreciate all the hard work that goes into protecting the royals. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Thanks, Sharon. It was great talking with you.